HIVE Blockchain Technologies hat sich dem Schürfen und Halten von Bitcoin und Ethereum verschrieben. Die Firma habe ich euch in diesem Video schon mal genauer vorgestellt. Jetzt möchte ich aber direkt einsteigen und mit Frank Holmes, dem Executive Chairman, einmal genauer über die Firma, die Strategie und den langfristigen Shareholder Value sprechen. Frank Holmes ist ein ausgewiesener Experte, gerade wenn es um das Thema Mining und Gold geht. Aber er hat sich eben auch im Jahr 2017 dafür entschieden, einen Schritt in den anderen Bereich des Minings zu gehen, nämlich dem Bitcoin-Mining. Und darüber wird er uns jetzt ein bisschen was erzählen.
Frank, it's very good to have you. Thank you very much for your time. Frank, you are a well-known investor in gold and in mining stocks. And a lot of our German-speaking shareholders know you for a long time now. A few years ago, you decided to join HIVE as an executive chairman, but HIVE is not a usual mining company for resources. Instead, you are still mining, but for cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum. So what got you into the crypto business?
Well, let's start at a very macro level. Gold is a non-centralized asset around the world, and its price is 60% for love. If you look at the demand for it, and 40% central banks and people fearful of governments printing too much money. So it's a decentralized monetary asset globally. Some characterize it as a commodity, as a metal commodity, and gold bugs themselves, it's a monetary asset for a lot of the world. What I've found so fascinating is that in many countries, it has a dual ability to wear beautiful gold bangles. And in a crisis in Thailand, you can take them off and you get out of the country. Or Vietnam, the Vietnam boat people were first to have gold. The Syrian women that got out of Syria in the crisis only in this past 10 years were able to take the gold to get out. So it can be jewelry and love at the same time, a monetary asset. It's decentralized. It's not controlled by the EU central bank or the Federal Reserve. And it's controlled by all these buyers and sellers around the world. Bitcoin is very similar. And you need to have the creation of a Bitcoin. You have to go and buy equipment, and then you have to use electricity to create this digital asset. And so there's a cost of electricity. There's a cost for this equipment. Now it's gold mining. I have to go buy mining equipment and crush the rock. And then I need electricity with heat to heat up a refinery to separate it, the dirt from the gold. This also creates a real tangible asset. So there's a digital asset, which is Bitcoin, and it's decentralized. It has over 10,000 validators around the world validating all the transactions on the blockchain. So to me, it's one of these really important evolution in technology, but also it's a portable digital asset. And that's what's so special about it.
Zunächst beschreibt Frank Holmes die Vergleichbarkeit von Gold und Bitcoin. Viele Menschen besitzen Gold, einerseits als Schmuck und andererseits als Mittel in Krisenzeiten. Und deswegen ist Gold, anders als unsere schwachen Papierwährungen, ein Asset, welches nicht von Einzelpersonen kontrolliert wird. Auch wenn es sich an vielen Stellen sehr stark vermuten lässt und jetzt auch jüngst wieder bestätigt wurde, dass große Institutionen Einfluss auf den Goldpreis nehmen, so gibt es dennoch keinen fest zugeteilten Verantwortlichen. Ähnlich, da ist es beim Bitcoin. Dieser ist ebenfalls nicht zentral gesteuert, muss aber, so wie auch Gold, abgebaut werden, wenn auch ein wenig anders.
So in the journey with gold and having gold funding and creating the first gold royalty company and being involved with the creation of Wheaton Precious, I saw this as crypto mining was interesting because I launched the JETS ETF, and the JETS ETF is listed in London now, it's listed in New York, etc. And I was thinking to launch a Bitcoin ETF. Well, I realized quickly that the regulators were saying no because of their concerns of anti-money laundering laws. So they said no, but when you're a crypto miner, you mine the original coin. It's never been in cyberspace. You do not have an AML problem. You do not have this issue of maybe we bought a coin that was in the dark cloud or Putin had it or something of that nature. So I said, I could go into this crypto mining. This is a decentralized asset. And I put up the initial institutional money of $5 million, went on as the non-exec chair. And it was a raving success. Fidelity gave us $100 million in the fall of 2017. Other institutions in Canada gave us another 100 million. And it was a big, big success. And we started mining Ethereum in Iceland and immediately had high revenue per employee. We had 3 employees. Then we did a big build out north of Germany in northern Sweden, in Boden, around 100 miles or 100 kilometers south of the Arctic Circle. And so we mine and we source green energy only, geothermal, hydro, and then we mine in the cloud with the technology, and we bank those digital coins. So what happened is that I have this big following of a lot of gold investors. They wanted to go into Bitcoin and Ethereum, but they were reluctant. They were cautious. You read about all these scams and exchanges, etc. So HIVE became their proxy. So the HIVE moves up and down with Bitcoin, and actually moves greater percentage-wise up and down. And it just has this sort of this proxy ability. And we also hold on for dear life is the expression. We keep a lot of our Bitcoin in the bank. So every day we're mining, 9 of them, and up till June of this year, we have been basically banking every penny we can and building a big asset base that is worth just under 100 million. We had another 100 million of Ethereum, but we started selling the Ethereum because it had a bigger move in the upside. And for your listeners, think of gold and Bitcoin are connected. Ethereum and silver are similar. So when you have a bull market in gold, then silver outperforms and takes off. Gold corrects, silver falls more. Bitcoin takes off, Ethereum goes more. Bitcoin corrects, Ethereum falls more. So it's like the silver to gold is what Ethereum is to Bitcoin.
Frank hat auf seiner Reise durch den Goldmarkt viel erlebt und sich den Status einer Legende im Mining verdient. Dabei hat er mehr und mehr die Vorzüge auch von Bitcoin kennengelernt. Denn er ist auf die Idee gekommen, dass er einen Bitcoin-ETF in die Welt setzen könnte. Diese Idee wurde aber leider schnell von verschiedensten Regulatorien blockiert und so hat er sich entschieden, einfach direkt ins Mining-Business einzusteigen. Was sehr gut funktioniert hat, denn einige seiner Anleger aus dem Mining-Business interessierten sich damals auch schon für ein Investment in Krypto. Aber viele Skandale und Unsicherheiten der Industrie haben Anleger etwas abgeschreckt. Und daher kam HIVE sehr gelegen. Eine detaillierte Vorstellung von HIVE habe ich euch schon vorab in diesem Video gegeben. Die Strategie von HIVE ist es, möglichst viele Coins zu schürfen und halten und somit ein wertvolles Asset aufzubauen. Und wie genau die Firma langfristigen Shareholder Value schaffen will, das verrät uns Frank.
One of the big parts is owning data centers, and you really are a data center business. And the quality, and there's 2 types of crypto miners. There's a level. There's 4 types of levels of a data center. So they can cost you $300,000, $3 million, $8 million, and $10 million. All the redundancy, so that if you're Facebook, et cetera, you're going to have lots of redundancy in Google and Amazon. And the big build out for crypto mining in Texas is they call level 0, which is basically a simple movable wagon, almost like a train that you load up machines into and you mine from. We build facilities. So the facility we have in Boden is actually an old helicopter on a military pad. And so what our big vision there is to build a greenhouse beside it. And there's already been one beta site that's beside us, but we want to become the cucumber kings of northern Sweden and the Nordic countries. And we can recycle this energy. And that's part of that ESG strategy. And the same thing is when so that asset becomes a real asset. So what we started doing in North America is buying the assets. So our first big acquisition was in New Brunswick. And we did 2 major acquisitions in Canada during COVID when everyone was afraid. And so we started buying for $300,000, approximately $350,000 a megawatt of electricity infrastructure. They immediately went to 2 million valuation. So I'm really thrilled that we built about 80 megawatts here by the end of August in New Brunswick, and it's our buildings, and they're beautiful cathedral-shaped buildings. We can upgrade them to become a higher level of redundancy, but they can handle snow. They can handle 6 feet of snow in their buildings. They can handle the heat. So they're just beautiful buildings and construction. What we've done in Quebec and Lachute is we have a building there that's about 40,000 square feet. So I guess you say about 4,000 square meters. And that 4,000 square meters throws off a lot of heat, especially in the winter. And we put a pipe next to another building that was there that was actually, I believe, a German company was doing graphite. And it's 20,000 square meters. So we're able today to take with pipes the heat from our ASIC mining and direct it across and heat a 200,000 square foot or 20,000 square foot meter building and recycle the heat. So it saves and we use hydroelectricity. And so it's inexpensive, it's renewable, but we keep grinding it out of recycling that energy. And that's been part of our long-term focus. The other really exciting part is the software that we have. So we can go in Bowden from 30 megawatts down to 3 in 15 seconds. A big dam, we have a hydro dam only a quarter of a kilometer away from our facility. And for them during peak demand at 8 o'clock in the morning, kids getting ready to go to school, or 5 o'clock at dinner, there's a surge for electricity, especially in the winter for heating. And they'd have to build huge infrastructure, spend hundreds of millions of dollars. But with us, we just tool back. They have our electricity, and then we turn our machines up right away again. And so our software actually saves hundreds of millions of dollars of capex for these peak periods. And it's called balancing the grid. So we are doing that, and we get paid for doing that in northern Sweden.
Sounds very good, and it sounds very like you have a plan for the future, and you are here to stay. Talking about,
and I think it's really important to say, because the metaverse and the whole growth of digital AI and gaming, Spotify, which comes out of Sweden, and also all these other sort of big games, global games, they need independent data centers, and they need the GPU chips. So when you mine Bitcoin, it's a workhorse called an ASIC chip. When you mine Ethereum, you need a much more complex chip. It's like driving a Porsche 9, sort of, I would say a Bugatti. It's like more like a Bugatti when you're with GPU chips. Now, if you have a big Mercedes truck, that's an ASIC. It's a carry a big workload, and so the GPUs, that chip is used for artificial intelligence. It's used for gaming. It's used for movie making, for music streaming, anything that is digital that has a lot of complexity moving parts to it. Just like right now, this interview requires GPU chips. And so we see that all the NVIDIA chips that we have are the premier chips in the world for gaming and AI. So we believe that we have a long-term life, and that the metaverse is going to need more and more independent data centers, not just leasing, which is very expensive if you want to lease from Google or Amazon or Microsoft. So we think we have a long-term secure business plan by owning these data centers.
Das Coin schürfen und halten ist also nur ein Teil der Geschäftsstrategie. Im Fokus steht auch die Rechenleistung und die Datenverarbeitung. Frank spricht an, dass die Technologie von HIVE Teil der Zukunft sein wird. Denn alle großen Technologiefirmen werden diese Leistung benötigen. Speziell mit Blick auf das Metaverse und die sich immer weiterentwickelnde AI ist HIVE auf dem richtigen Weg, wie Frank berichtet. Deswegen wollte ich etwas herauskitzeln, womit wir in den kommenden Wochen und Monaten hinsichtlich von News rechnen können. Der Kurs von HIVE, der orientiert sich ja stark an dem Kryptomarkt, aber dennoch können auch spannende News wie beispielsweise eine erweiterte Produktionskapazität für Aufsehen sorgen.
The big part now is to get our audits out, and it's more complex for us because we have to have things done in Swedish, then convert to translate to English, and then Danish from Iceland, and then candidates in French and English, and then get it all put out. So this is an important week to push through to get our audit out to the public. I think that's a big part. We're going to go cautious. We've said that we're the most efficient miner. There's a couple of sites that are out there that write, and they compare all the crypto mining companies. And touch wood, we are still, even with companies with bigger market caps than us, we still have the highest revenue per employee, and we are still the most efficient mining company in the world. And we mine both Ethereum and Bitcoin. A lot of people say that Ethereum is going to proof of stake, and therefore you'll lose that business opportunity. We don't think it's going to be straight line. They've been promising this is going to happen now for 5 years. It's always going to happen next quarter, but there's a glitch in the upgrade. And so we'll see what happens. But in the interim, we mine Ethereum at it's a very high attractive margin. So even though Bitcoin and Ethereum have fallen, we're still making, out of free cash flow, 150,000 a day. And we were making 600,000 a day. And our plan was to grow this to $1 million a day. So Bitcoin goes back to $40,000, Ethereum goes back to 2,000. We have very explosive upside growth. So, but we want to be cautious. We've not said, let's go build the biggest project in the world in Texas or some other place, because you have logistics problems. If I can take my 20 megawatts to 30 megawatts, I can take my 30 megawatts to 50 megawatts and the 80 megawatts, and I can control that energy process. I found that it makes us more efficient. And we have liquid Bitcoin and Ethereum on our balance sheet. So we move with the coins. Bitcoin, when it returns back to $60,000, the thousands of coins that we own will also have a huge price appreciation, in addition to the mining capacity. And our goal is to double our Bitcoin production over the next 12 months.
Das Ziel soll also sein, die Bitcoin-Produktion innerhalb der nächsten 12 Monate zu verdoppeln. Und das ist ein Statement vor allem dann, wenn man einen Blick auf die von Frank genannten Umsatzzahlen wirft. Sollte der Bitcoin-Preis wieder auf 40.000 US-Dollar und Ethereum wieder auf 2.000 ansteigen, dann haben HIVE-Aktionäre vermutlich noch einen Grund mehr zur Freude. Schreibt ihr uns mal gerne in die Kommentare, ob ihr an einen neuen Aufschwung im Kryptomarkt glaubt, und wenn ja, wann genau erwartet ihr diesen? Im nächsten Schritt habe ich Frank nochmal um einen Überblick für unsere Community gebeten. Ich weiß, dass viele von euch da draußen zum großen Teil im Mining von Ressourcen investiert sind, aber hier haben wir einen Experten, der in beiden Gebieten aktiv ist, nämlich dem Mining von Bitcoin und Rohstoffen. Und daher habe ich Frank gebeten, nochmals den Unterschied zu erklären und den Fokus für Anleger nochmal ganz kurz zu beschreiben.
Okay, that's a statement. Looking forward to that. Excellent. Thank you very much for telling us a little bit about HIVE. Now we're going back to you as a person, and you're experienced in both. You're experienced in usual resource mining and in crypto mining. And we have a lot of people in our shareholder community that are invested into resource mining. And maybe you can tell them a little bit about the difference between a crypto miner. I don't think you have an exploration phase, and the resource mining companies. What's the difference?
Well, what happens is a lot of people jumped in back in 2017 in these new tokens, and they were like a bunch of new explorers, looking for uranium, but they had no uranium except for the uranium's in the name of the stock, but they don't have any uranium assets. So you had a lot of these tokens that said, we're another Bitcoin and we're another Ethereum. They really didn't have anything, and that blew up on their face. And the bottom of the last cycle was when JP Morgan, who used to be so negative on the crypto industry, announced their own crypto coin, a stable coin. So that was the bottom. And it's now out there that JP Morgan is one of the biggest players in Ethereum. And so they want to have Ethereum go proof of stake so they can turn around to be able to make money. And that's where a lot of the crypto kids are. So I think what's really important for the gold mining industry, the exploration, you had these crypto events, and this really shocked me in 2017, that the CEO of Fidelity, who's worth $30 billion, a CFA, a former fund manager, Abigail Johnson, she doesn't speak at technology conferences, but she speaks at a Bitcoin event. So why is that? And they believe that the blockchain is going to be so important for the back office for all these transactions, etc. And you get, like recently, the consensus is called, was in Austin last month. 15,000 people spending $1,000 a ticket. You would never get that for junior mining. The Bitcoin conference, the biggest in the world, it was in Miami this year, earlier this year. They had 30,000 people, 2,000 a ticket. They're now going to have a conference in Amsterdam in October. And they're expecting 10,000 people. Wow. So what I try to explain to junior mining people and junior mining investing, it's beautiful exploration. It's exciting to participate, but the young people have been attracted to new technology and new speculation over in crypto world. And what happens in this space is what we're seeing now is there was a big drive for yield because zero interest rates, and all of a sudden I could give you 12% yields on your crypto funds. So a lot of money went into this space and they didn't run it properly. They didn't have a capital base. Like a broker has to have capital. And we had a crisis for a lot of young people don't remember, but it was called long-term capital in 98. And they were supposedly the smartest people in the world, hedge fund managers. And so they leveraged their fund 100 to 1. That is, $1 billion was leveraged to 100 billion. What does that mean? It means that a 1% mistake and all the $1 billion is wiped out. So we had the currency crisis in 97 in Asia. Long-term capital all of a sudden starts feeling this and they get wiped out, and it brought almost a recession in America. So this high leverage showed up again in 2008 with housing, only putting down 1% to buy a house in America, and then selling all these credit default swaps around the world. It was just a highly leveraged crisis that imploded. So the crypto space is going through that as rates are starting to rise around the world. People are questioning it, and then they find out that the counterparty risk is that it was too leveraged. There's no real capital behind these lending platforms that are crypto. So that's been part of the unwind. And I think we're almost there. I think between the next 3 months, it will have bottomed. Crypto would have bottomed, and away we'll start on this run again. But every time you have this crisis, it doesn't slow down the adoption. In junior mining, it hasn't been able to get the support of regulations, et cetera, for attracting that capital base. So it's more difficult. We still are the most active gold exploration institutional investor. For my gold funds, we are still out there participating, doing due diligence, sending our technical team to the conferences, sending to go visit assets around the world. So we're still intimately involved, but it doesn't have that same big ecosystem that it used to have. So that means if you're going to speculate in these junior mining adventures, you really have to have a different checklist besides a story. Like, what is the track record of the promoter creating a brand for the stock? What is, how well do they tell their story, and how regularly do they tell their story? Not a pump and dump, but just focus on the communication so that there's trading, there's liquidity with it. And then what is their track record with finding ounces per share or resources per share? Because if you do these crazy mergers or lots of dilution of financing, you have 1 million ounces, but a lot of people sell more shares and dilute the company faster than they find more ounces. So that sort of hurt that industry. But there are some great people in it, and you've got to really pull in and focus, like the Lundin Group and Lucas Lundin and his boys, his sons. They're in the junior mining space, and they always write checks. They always own 20 to 30% of those companies, and they're very conscientious of finding ounces or production per share. And so you've got to get people that are like them. Ross Beatty was one of the other great people that understood the value metrics on a per share basis. So that's what I tried to tell people, that junior mining is not going to go away because the world needs mining. And you really have to stay focused on the big trend. So lithium stocks took off. You have to be able to jump in and jump out on that big boom of looking for lithium. It's going to be cobalt, and then it's going to be back to gold. Right now, gold and silver are taking it difficult because the US dollar is so strong. But I will tell you this on my data mining, the 100 gold producers of the world that I follow, 60% of them are throwing off free cash flow. Back in 2013, it was only 8%, 10% were had free cash flow. So the industry as a whole is much stronger. And I think that this is a better for investors. And these bigger companies are going to have to look at some of these juniors to acquire them. There's just no doubt this is what they're going to have to do to replenish. Because if I'm Newmont and I'm producing 8 million ounces a year, there 6 million ounces, well, it's hard to find 6 million ounces. So how am I going to replace it? And so these other ones that have big discoveries, they're going to become more valuable. And so one of the things that we've done is that we would own gold notes, and they got bought out. The Grand Columbia gold notes were a big win for us because we got paid on a monthly basis. And now there's another one that's out there in Canada, and they pay monthly. And so they weather this sort of correction in gold, but then if gold takes off, they pay more each month. So you get an upside. So that's what we try to be innovative at looking at, how do you deploy capital in junior mining. But we remain very bullish. The demand for copper, for the green movement, the demand for gold, the supply is shrinking. The old deposits are too deep, or the grade is too low. So therefore, they're going to have to find high-grade deposits, and they're going to become more valuable.
Frank bestätigt also nochmals, wie bereits der US-Analyst John Kaiser im letzten Video gesagt hat, es ist auch nach wie vor noch möglich, Geld mit Resource Mining Stocks zu verdienen. Aber diese müssen anständig herausgepickt werden. Die Zeiten, in denen alles steil nach oben geht, die sind vorbei. Und wir von axinocapital.de, wir versuchen schon so viel wie möglich vorzuselektieren und nehmen eben keine Firmen auf unser Portal, die mit heißer Luft werden. Dennoch solltet ihr trotzdem bei diesen Firmen genau schauen, ob ihr in diese investieren wollt, denn wir geben euch keine Anlageberatung, sondern lediglich alle Werkzeuge und Informationen an die Hand, die ihr braucht, um eine fundierte Entscheidung zu treffen. Zu guter Letzt habe ich Frank nochmals 30 Sekunden gegeben, seine besten Argumente für ein Investment in HIVE darzulegen.
In the world of gold, I've always advocated the 10% golden rule. Have 10% in gold stocks and rebalance every year. When it comes to crypto, I think 2 to 3% is wise, and HIVE is a proxy to be able to participate in the crypto build-out system.
Wenn ihr mehr zu HIVE Blockchain Technologies erfahren wollt, dann schaut auf axinocapital.de vorbei. Dort erfahrt ihr alle News rund um HIVE, aber auch andere spannende Small Caps. Und außerdem solltet ihr dem Kanal hier ein Abo dalassen und auch gerne einen Kommentar schreiben. Wir beantworten eure Fragen gerne und sehen uns im nächsten Video wieder.